Thank you, Susan. In a slide before, you saw the number of data collection waves we've got with growing up in New Zealand. In this slide, what I wanted to show you the number of data sets that we have at present. It's continuing to grow. So growing up in New Zealand, data has variety, volume, and velocity. So the three V's that you look for in a data world. Here we've got about 22 data sets. Majority of them are available internally, and we are trying to work through them. And almost all of our data sets will start with 3 letters, if you look at them. The naming convention for DCW, which stands for Data Collection Wave, and they'll be followed with a number which represents the year of the child or the birth. So the DCW0, which is the antenatal data collection wave, has 2 data sets, DCW0M and DCW0P, which represent the mother data set and the partner data set. And partner data set is quite unique in the sense, longitudinal studies, this is possibly the first data set that you will get information about the partner antenatally. So going forward to DCW1, which is the first year of the child's life, we've got 2 data collection points, which is the 6 weeks data collection and also at 9 months. We have harmonized 6 weeks data collection wave with the perinatal data and also included 35-week call. So in total, we've got 4 internally working data sets. So these 2 data collection waves, in total, the data sets are the focus of current release. But going forward, the number is increasing and it's continuing to grow. All the data that we relate to growing up in New Zealand has been collated, cleaned, audited, and managed internally. So when we receive the raw data, they go through a series of steps. Starting with the raw data, the text data get coded, they get cleaned and validated. We create derived variables for analytical use, and we merge data sets, for example, information from Stats New Zealand and depth information. And also, we include formats and label attachments, and we order the variables so it's in line with the questionnaires, and we create the internal working data sets. And then we start the process of data anonymization. In the 2-year report, you will see that at 9 months, retention rates are at 95%, and Susan mentioned this before as well, and at 2 years, it's at 92%. So it's a true representation of all the hard work the Growing Up in New Zealand team is attending to, as well as a representation of the participants' commitment to this study. So, in a nutshell, the process of data anonymization is a balancing act, making sure that the involvement of the study participants are kept confidential and that they cannot be identified. But at the end of all this process, we want to make sure that the data you receive has the highest quality of possible going forward. Here, I'm going to try and explain a bit about the data anonymization process. Starting from the raw data, it passes through a disclosure risk measurement, which looks at the privacy of the individuals, utility to the wider researchers like yourself, and the sensitivity of information, and sustainability of the cohort, and also the relevance, longitudinal relevance. If at that time point we find identifiers that are direct identifiers, we will remove them. Once the data pass through to the selected variables, we look at how can we generate pseudo IDs to be able to release externally. And also we look at the selected variables and follow through some statistical disclosure controls on the categorical data and continuous data to be able to come down to a anonymized data sets. Then we start re-identification modelings, univariate multiple identification models to evaluate disclosure risks and start the process back again if we are not happy until we come up with the fully anonymized data sets. At the end of it all, we will create the data sets as well as other information such as data dictionaries to be available to release externally. So, final product will be the fully anonymized data sets. In the first data release, we released DCWM, which represent the mother antenatally, and DCW0P, which represent the partner data set. But in the current data release, we are releasing those two data sets as well as a linked ID information for antenatal, which you can then go on to link for the DCW1. Now you will get 3 data sets that has all the information from perinatal to 6 weeks, and including 9 months for the child data sets represented by DCW1C, and for mother and for partner. Once you do receive this data set, there are a few things to consider. You are receiving a full anonymized data sets, not bespoke data sets. And they're also at the individual level data, not aggregated level data. So it's really important to consider your storage and your security of your handling of your data. And also consider what sort of software you may use, because these are large data sets. We will attempt to release the data in SAS, SPSS, and Starter, and facilitate any other format that you will require. But number of data sets are increasing, and already you are receiving 4 data sets, or 5 in total, with the linkage data sets. So there are relational data sets. So DCW1 0 data sets relates to DCW1 data sets. So it's important to understand how you would merge between these data sets and to be able to link information. To talk a bit more about that, Jatender will come.
Thank you, Dinusha. Exciting, isn't it? So we can see here the top section, as my colleague has also mentioned about what are the different representation of these acronyms, DCW1C, DCW1M, DCW1P. To be honest, it takes some time to get on these, what is this representation. Yeah, to the outer people, it takes some time to understand what are the different terms mean. So there are a couple of things we need to understand. These gray corners, these are the different data sets. And so let's say this is data collection wave 1C, which is 9-month child data set. And this is DCW1M, which is a 9-month mother data set, partner data set, and the bottom section, which is the antenatal data collection wave. And there are 2 different data collection points, which is antenatal mother and antenatal partner. So we want to establish a relationship so we can merge the information and for your analysis and interpretation. So these arrows, these are the different keys. So you can link these data sets via different keys. These keys has a relevance as well. So there is a prefix and a suffix. So you have a prefix called IDN, which is called identification number. And these suffixes, in each data set, you will find each variable has a suffix as well. So for example, AM represents antenatal mother, AP represents antenatal partner, W6M is week 6 mother, and 9-month mother and 9-month partner. So they have some relevance as well. So as like the data sets, the variable has certain kind of nomenclatures. So these arrows, they represent relationships, because the focus of the data set and the study is a child. So the child if the data set is child focused, so it will be uniquely represented the child data sets. For example, DCW1C, we have, let's say, 6,000 children. So there will be a 6,000 children uniquely defined over there. So you can establish one-to-one relationship via DCW1C with DCW01 IDN. And so these arrows represent one-to-one relationship. Because of multiple birth in our study, so there will be if it's a child-specific data set, so the mother information will be repeated twice or thrice if they are triplets. But for twins, it will be twice. So that's why it will have a many-to-one kind of relationship. So this data set is quite novel this time. And if you have been to the previous workshop, you can this data set wasn't available. So what this data set, purpose of this data set is to link the information across the 2 data collection point. So to make it a more child focused analysis. So in the next slide, I will show you one of the example. So for example, if I'm interested in the change of self-reported general health of mother from antenatal to 9 months, or if you want to build a model, or you want to model the change of general health across 2 data collection points as a function of some other characteristics. So what you need to do, you need to bring your key variable, which is general health antenatally, general health at 9 months. So how you do that? So definitely your focus of point is antenatal mother general health and 9-month general health. So, and what you're trying to answer, you can merge 9-month mother first with the child, with child ID, sorry, with mother ID, and similarly you can bring the general health of mother antenatally and link with the mother information stored in DCW identification table via mother ID, and at the end you can link those information via child ID to create a child focused data set. So in this slide I want to walk you through some of the document which is available for you that will provide you a better and a comprehensive understanding about the growing up in New Zealand data system. So the first document is reference and process user guide. This is also available in your user pack. This guide provides us a brief description of the study, overview, and the background, and what is the different data collection points, where are we at the moment. It also talks you about how you can link the information across the different data system, and it talks about the data dictionaries in detail, what are the different terminologies involved, and it also stresses on the anonymization process, what are the different rules we adopted to anonymize the data sets. And finally, it also talks about the application process, the way you can access the data sets. The second document, which Susan also mentioned, that is about the questionnaires, which is a very important tool. And these questionnaires are available on Growing Up in New Zealand website, and they are in PDF format. And it's not only up to 9 months, they are all available at 2-year data collection point. The next document is data dictionaries. Since these are anonymized data sets, so there's a lot of pre-processing has been happened on these data sets. So the Growing Up in New Zealand data dictionary provide you a guide to the anonymized data sets. So let's look into more detail about what are the different terminologies and how we can utilize this data dictionary for better understanding to the data sets. You can see this is, first of all, Growing Up in New Zealand data dictionaries are available in HTML format, and you can browse it with any internet browser of your choice. You can use with Chrome, Internet Explorer, or the Mozilla Firefox. And you can see DCW1C, which is a child data dictionary. Every dictionary comes with a header, and it will tell you the dimensionality of the data set, what is the total number of observation, what's the total number of variables involved. There's a lot of terminologies involved into the headers, which is important to understand. We start with the position of a variable. What position says the order of a variable in a data set. So for example, IDN underscore child, which is a variable name in this data set, it holds number 1 position. Similarly, we can see gender underscore PDL, it holds number 5th position in the data set. So position represents the order of the variable in the data set. The next attribute is data collection, and which is important in child data set. The reason, because as my colleague mentioned, we harmonize the information with other data set like the perinatal health record. So this data, DCW1C, has data sets and information which is harmonized with other perinatal health records. So how do you find the information here? So you can see some information is directly came from 6 weeks, some came from 9 months. So we have a flag here, and that represents where the information came from. For example, birth weight is right, or let's say the term. Term underscore PDL is a variable, and it holds number 7th position in a data set. And we can say with some notes, the harmonized information with perinatal data set. So that help you to understand what kind of the processing has happened with these particular variables. Let's look at the next column, which is the questionnaire number. It's very straightforward. The questionnaire number represents the number of the question in the questionnaire. For example, gender Q2 is a question number in the questionnaire. And similarly, you can see the last one. C177 is question number in child questionnaire, right? The next column is question, which is the question is generally taken from the questionnaires in most of the cases, but we harmonize the information with other data set and we derive some information. So these are the shorts. For derived information, these might be the shorter version. For example, NZDEP, we can say the NZDEP 2006 classification. So mostly directly taken from the questionnaire, but otherwise very shortened version. Variable name is the name of the variable in the data set that you will use for all of your reporting or your analytical purposes. Format name is unique to the SAS language that says that for example, gender underscore PDL has a format 6inf, which has two different levels, 1 and 2. So one is boy and girl. So format name represents that is a technical term to the SAS language that associates the different levels and the categories of the descriptions. The next column we have is formatted data values and the value labels. So let's say this variable birth month underscore PDL. So this holds number 6 position in the data set, and we know that it came from 6 week, and if you look at the questionnaire, its number is Q4, and the question description is birth month, and this is a birth month underscore PDL is the variable name, and month inf is format name, and it has obviously have 12 values because it's derived from the date of birth of a child, right? So you can see, if you want to design some seasonality variable for a child in which month he is born, so you can utilize this variable, and you can see it has 12 numeric categories, 1 to 12, and these are the different labels for those values. Similarly, you can see with the term inf, which is the format name for term variable, it has 3 categories, and 1, 2, and 3, and whose category descriptions are given. Term as 1 as defined as less than 37 gestational week, and 2 is 37 to 41, and so on. Right. So the next column is variable type. This is very important information. This tells you about our methodology, how we process the information, and how we anonymize the information, and in what form you are getting this information in. So identification key, which is straightforward, we can see IDN underscore child, IDN underscore W6M, M9M, M9P. These are the different identification key. You can merge this information. You can utilize this key to merge the information across different data sets. If you see the value of this column is raw, that means it's directly taken from the raw data sets. The next one is derived information. Derived information is the synthesis of any new information based upon the raw variables. So for example, if I'm creating this birth month underscore PDL, which says a derived variable, and we provide you the logic for the derived variable as well. It's written in a SAS language, month function, and as the variable was child, date of birth, and PDL. So we're trying to provide you some scripts how we derive the new information. Though it's not necessarily, we are not providing you this child date of birth variable, but the new information is given. But for a transparency, we want to show how this variable is created. The next set of the variable in the data set could be recategorized. Recategorized variables are those where we collapse the different levels, different values, and create a new label to them. For example, gestational age. So this term is derived from, the variable name is term, and it's derived from gestational age in weeks. Since there are few babies who are born premature, and there are some babies who are born at more than 40 gestational age in weeks. So we didn't provide you the the complete distribution, but to anonymize the participant confidentiality of the participant. So instead we are trying to provide you a categorical variable. So that means a continuous variable has been categorized into different groups, and it provides you a similar level of interpretation. So those variables are the recategorized variable. There are other set of variables which are called the reclassified. You can search this data dictionary easy. You can use your search function and find the keywords. So this provides you a platform to search the variables of your interest very easily. So this set of the variables are reclassified variables. So what is mean by reclassified? So for example, when we get the data in other text forms, so we ask at the end if the variable has 7 different categories, and we ask them what is the other response you want to provide. So user can provide open-end text information. So we code that open-end text information into different levels or a group. So for example, let's look at this variable which says which health professional and are looking after your child now. So this is collected as 6-week information. So let's look at this in more detail. So this question starts from question 19. Oh, sorry, this one. Q16. Variable started number 20. It came from 6-week data set. Question number is Q16. So you didn't see the question number because there are different levels all the way going down. So the variable name is health professional underscore GP underscore W6. So you can see this question might have a lot of levels. Underscore GP represents the general practitioner team, and then you have the Plunkett, pediatrician, Maury health provider, and Pacific health provider, public health nurse, and so on. What I want to show you where the variables come to the reclassified. All of this information was raw before, up to none of these category, but the other response was coded into a category, so therefore we call it as a reclassified. So we created 3 categories, which is one is called the hospital nurse, alternative medicine, and the lactation consultant. So it's important to understand the distinction between the different set of the variables, how they have been created in the anonymized data sets. Right. So the last set of the value for this is derived and recategorized. Chrome is really good in finding information quickly for me. It highlights the information. Okay, we got it. So this set of the variables are called the derived and the recategorized variable. So let's understand what this question in detail. This is the 90th position in the data dictionary. It came from 9 months. This is the question number. And this is the text of the question. It says, what is the longest time that baby has had a cough? And this is represented by the variable name CS21. And so what we did, this was a continuous variable, and this was a continuous variable. We asked in months and weeks. We created a derived variable first, and then we looked into the anonymization matrix, and we find that it is important to fix a upper level bound on this data set. So this is why it's first derived and then recategorized for the external data release. The next column are SAS logic is self-explanatory, where we provide, when the variable is derived, we provide you the logic for the information, how the information is derived. And the next 2 columns are nodes. What are the different nodes in the data dictionary? So for the IDN variable, they called it randomly generated ID. Some information, harmonized information with perinatal data, age in weeks. If they are scales variable, we put a note there. This is a scale variable, and you can construct a scale with that. If it's some scale information or any references, the references are provided at the end of the data dictionaries here. And you can see this is a column for the references. So data dictionaries are, because a lot of processing has happened in the anonymization data set, so it's important that you read along with the questionnaires and for your all analysis and reporting purposes. What we briefly covered on different terminology used in data dictionary, we started with the position, what is the different data collection, what is the question number, question, variable name, format name. The most important aspect is the variable type, raw variable, recategorized, reclassified, derived variables, and derived and then recategorized variable, logic, and the references. Yeah. I will pass on this talk to my colleague who will show you more examples on the 9-month data set.